ESPN's Major League Baseball as the hunt for October continues here in Baseball City, St. Louis, Missouri. It's the Astros and the Cardinals. And coming up tonight, we're going to break down what is left of the battle for the Central Division title. They've been fighting it out all season. How about the National League MVP race? Tony Gwynn and Rick Sutcliffe will handicap it for you. And if the Astros make the playoffs, can they finally win a round? We'll examine Houston's postseason blues. All to come on this Friday night. It's a beautiful, clear evening here in St. Louis. Rick Sutcliffe, Tony Gwynn, Dave O'Brien with you. We'll be back with the first pitch in just a moment. Right now, time for an update on the doubleheader. John Butchergrass and Rob Dibble in the studio. Guys.
Thank you, David. We'll be here all night breaking into your action to give you pertinent information on the playoff races. And we begin with those Chicago Cubs, Rob, who really have kind of stuck back into the wild card race as well. If the Phillies and Marlins beat each other up, never know. The Cubs keep winning. They could have some insurance as they also fight for the NL Central. And early on in Pittsburgh, Jason Bay. That's a grand slam.
That's a grand slam, and that's not what you want to do when you have a 3-0 lead. You want to put a lot of goose eggs up on the board.
Oh, Jim Rooker.
Didn't happen.
Meanwhile, top of the third, bases loaded, former Bucco Kenny Lofton. That's going to go to the gap. 3 RBI triple. Cubs up 8-4. Then here's Jason Bay again.
You see both of those pitches are on the inner half of the plate. He's a young rookie. He just opens up and he fires that out of the ballpark.
That's 6 RBIs, and Robbie's not done. How about an 8 spot in the RBI department for Jason Bay?
But all 3 of those pitches, John, right down the heart of the plate, inner half and high. Nothing better for a hitter to swing at.
That makes it 9-9. We're now in the bottom of the 9th as we speak. The Cubs have a 10-9 lead in this one. Sammy's done nothing, but this is a team game right now. The Cubs will have won 11 of 14, trying to hold on and make it 12 of 15. Meanwhile, Phillies taking on the Reds. Phillies up 4-2 in the bottom of the 4th.
But that dramatic win over the Marlins is going to probably carry them throughout the rest of the year. And what an effort by Jim Thome down the stretch that he's been putting up the big numbers.
Yeah, he's coming through in the clutch. National League wild card standings as we speak. Again, we'll be here with all your updates throughout the night. Marlins by a half game over the Phillies. As we mentioned, there are the Cubs, Rob. They have no one left in terms of competition.
And, John, the Cubs could maybe win the division, and the Astros could be your wild card winner. I mean, it's so close in both those divisions, especially with the wild card and the Cubs and the Astros. So don't count on it. The Marlins and the Phillies, they have to play the Braves, and then the Phillies finish up with the Braves. So
and they play each other.
Nothing set in stone right now, John.
All right, how about the Red Sox? He's a 6-tool player, arm, glove, range, power, and baseball's best head of hair, Rob.
Noma! Got a pretty cute fiance, too.
In Cleveland. Mamma mia. 2-out shot from Noma. And the Sox lead in the 5th, 2-0. John Burkett, who hasn't pitched too well lately so far, giving the Red Sox a good start. You talked about that before. They need the support staff to come through.
Absolutely, and the Red Sox have set up Tim Wakefield, great outing yesterday. They've set up their rotation to have Tim Wakefield finish the season with the last game, so that's an advantage for them with the knuckleballer. He's been very consistent.
All right, Houston and St. Louis coming up, 2 teams who can hit with power as well. What do you see in this one? Well,
I see in this one, you have 2 of the best offensive teams, but it's really going to come down to the bullpen. And by far, the Houston Astros have the best bullpen in baseball. So, you know, whoever gets the lead early in this game, probably going to win that game.
All right, Dave O'Brien, Rick Sutcliffe, and Tony Gwynn have the call from St. Louis.
John Dibbs, thank you very much. Of course, if the Cubs sweep that doubleheader against the Pirates and Houston loses here, the Cubs retake first place in this division. Jimmy Williams knows this very well. He's trying to get the Astros into the playoffs for the first time since 2001. Here's a look at his starting 9. Craig Biggio in center field. Jeff Blum at third base. Jeff Kent with 22 home runs. He hits out of the 4th spot. But the man right in front of him, Tony Gwynn, Jeff Bagwell, he could get 40 home runs again.
He could, and he's really starting to pick it up. 19 home runs after the break, and he's a big bat in the middle of this Houston lineup.
And a guy he has picked it up on just recently in Matt Morris's last start. Bagwell was the difference in that ball game. He hit a home run. Eventually, Houston won the game 2-0. And that's really a key for Matt Morris tonight. He said the big thing, he made a mistake on an 0-2 pitch. And when you're facing a guy like Roy Oswalt, who he is tonight, who he did then, when they're both healthy, you look for a pitcher's duel.
Well, defensively, Morris gets great help. The #1 rated defense in the National League for St. Louis. Orlando Palmeiro is in left, J.D. Drew in center, Perez in right field. But Scott Rowland is a tremendous defensive third baseman, a 4-time Gold Glover. And Matt Morris likes to get you to hit it on the ground. And so tonight we have two of the very best pitchers in the National League in Oswalt and Morris in a critical game in the Central. First pitch swung on and fouled away by Biggio. We are underway on a night in which the temperatures are going to drop down into the upper 40s, they tell us, perhaps. So certainly October weather here in September for the Cardinals and the Astros. Did he check his swing? The breaking ball missed outside. He did check, and it's 1-1.
Basically just a two-pitch pitcher with Matt Morris. He'll mix in an occasional changeup, but two of the better pitches that you'll see.
He'll mix in and he'll come in, and he came in too far, and he got Craig Biggio, who has hit for the 27th time this year.
And the 241st time in his career. How many times did you get hit, Tony?
Not many. I'll tell you, I don't know if I'd want my name on the top of that list, but, yeah, but that's why he wears that elbow pad, because he gets hit so often.
The all black and blue team. So Biggio is aboard, and Jeff Blum will step in. Incidentally, it is over there. Game 1 between the Cubs and the Pirates, and the Cubs hold on to win a wild one, 10-9. So as we speak, as of this hour, the Houston Astros know that their lead in the Central has been cut to half a game.
And believe me, Dave, they do know that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was in that clubhouse when the Cubs were up 3-0, and Jason Bay hit the grand slam homer. You would have thought they won that ball game, but they're looking at that scoreboard as we have, and you see the Cubs came back and won that ball game.
I think that's an interesting point, Rick, because this is a veteran Houston Astro team, and yet they can't help but look. You can't help but look at the scoreboard. You can't help to look to see what the teams who you're fighting with and to see what they're doing.
Morris comes in and up and in for a ball. Now, in 5 starts since coming off the disabled list, Morris has been spectacular. He's posted an ERA of 1.29. But as Sut pointed out, Houston beat him last weekend 2-0 despite an excellent outing. He's always been a much better second half pitcher than I think anybody realizes. He's 37-17 since the All-Star break in his career. So he likes pitching in spots like this. He covets this.
And the Astros know if they're going to get to him, they better try to do it in the very beginning of this game.
Down and in, gobbled up by Matheny, the catcher. And the count 3-2 on Blum. Bagwell is next, lurking on deck for Houston.
I would say that for both teams. They both want to try to put something on the board early, take the edge off.
Yep.
You know, not try to, you know, let this game build where there's a whole lot of tension. If you can get an early lead, it makes a huge difference.
Fly ball left field coming in. Palmeiro, long run in, but he pulls up now to make the catch. So Blum pops up to left field, and Bagwell will hit with just one on here in the first inning.
Just watching Palmeiro, Tony, come in and make that play reminds me of another way Albert Pujols helps Tony La Russa win ball game. His versatility. He can play first. He can play third. Either one of the corner outfielders, which helps a manager put the lineup out there and the bats out there he wants.
Absolutely. You know, you get to this point in the season, it's about matchups. And La Russa, you know, having versatility with Pujols allows him to get the kind of matchups that he wants.
First pitch is right through there at the knees against Bagwell. Jeff hitting .272, 36 homers, 7th in the National League, 92 runs batted in. He homered and drove in 3 yesterday in Colorado as the Astros took 2 out of 3 in that series. He hammers this one deep to right field. Did he get enough? Perez backs up against the wall. He leaps and can't get it because that one is gone. Perez hit the wall hard. He's still slow to get up, but it's a 2-run shot for Bagwell. And a quick start for Houston. They lead it 2-0.
Just talking with Brad Ausmus before the game about Bagwell. I said, tell me something I don't know. He says, you know what? We never know. But every time he comes to home plate, we feel like he's going to hit a home run. He takes those kind of swings. And, Tony, that's the 6th time this year he's hit a home run against the Cardinals.
And, you know, the other thing is that as a power hitter, he is not afraid to go the other way. And we've seen it a couple of times already early this year. You know, this is a ball that's down, and he goes right with it. And Perez gives it a great effort, just comes a little bit short.
Oh, and he slammed hard, chest first, into that part of the wall where there's a ledge, smacking into the right field fence. He tried to brace himself up against the mesh. He's going to remain in the game. La Russa and the trainer went out, and Eduardo is going to hang in there. Those Perez men are known to be rather tough, as his dad Tony was in a Hall of Fame career. So Eduardo is okay, and Bagwell's better with a 2-run homer, number 37. 417 now, moving up the charts. He still has never been, Rick Sutcliffe, to a World Series in his major league career. Will this be the year for Bagwell and for Biggio and the veterans on this Astros team? A check swing, and it's in there for a strike on Jeff Kent.
Boy, let alone getting to the World Series, they would just like to win a postseason series of any kind.
Never won one. They keep running into Atlanta year after year.
Well, they in 1998 ran into a Tony Gwynn's San Diego Padres with Kevin Brown on the mound.
I was going to say, I don't think it was so much Tony Gwynn, but Kevin Brown, Sterling Hitchcock. You know, one thing on the home run that Bagwell hit, you know, Perez goes back on this ball, and it's just a little subtle thing. When you're running full speed like that, you like to kind of count out how many steps it takes before you get to the wall. And if we can look at that one more time, you'll see he's about 1 step short of getting back far enough so that he can maybe go over the wall and make a play. You know, Perez goes back and he hits that warning track, and usually you have a little count in your head how many steps it's going to take for you to get to that wall. And he came up just a little bit short.
I think running into the fence had something to do with losing counts. Could knock that count right out of your head.
It is not an easy thing.
What is it, Tony, when you hit that track? I mean, do you feel it or do you hear it?
Usually
what's the
you feel it under your feet, and it's a thing you have to practice. You have to go out there and take balls. And you know, normally here at Busch Stadium, it was, if you're going back full speed, is 2.5 before you hit the wall. And you hit that second step, you know you should get up and try to get over, because a lot of players will back themselves in there too close to the wall and then jump into the wall and not really get over it. So
the 1-2 to Lance Berkman, taken inside. Do you think he had a chance to make that catch?
Well, when you look to see where the ball went over the wall, it barely got over the wall, and I think that 1/2 a step, if he could have got back another 1/2 a step, he might have been able to make that play.
Swing and a miss for strike 3. Berkman is disposed of. Morris gets out of the inning, but not without giving up a couple of runs. So it's time for Albert Pujols to try and get the Cardinals even. The top hitter in baseball at 366 will be swinging when we Tony La Russa's ball club right now on the short end of this one. The Astros with a quick 2-0 lead. Usually a very good September team, but they're just 7-11. The Cardinals are this September. Here's his starting lineup. Bo Hart, the rookie, is at second base. Albert Pujols with 42 home runs along with a big batting average. Edgar Renteria, Tony Gwynn last night had 4 hits to raise his average to 333.
You know what? If Albert Pujols wasn't on this club, we'd be talking a ton about Edgar Renteria. I mean, 333, 96 RBIs this year.
They always talk about the shortstops in the American League. Well, the National League now has one that compares to those guys. His job tonight is to try to put some runs up on the board against Roy Oswalt. And Dave, we talk about growing pains, you know, we all had coming up. Well, it's the right groin that has been bothering Oswalt all year long. He's been on the DL 3 times because of that injury. Probably going to have surgery when the season's over.
And yet, after the last time, the last of those 3 stays on the DL, he came back and he was overpowering against the St. Louis Cardinals last week as he beat them, popping his fastball at 95, changing speeds wickedly. And he can get about a 20-mile-an-hour difference between the off-speed pitch and the fastball. Tony, that's devastating stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get him an early 2-0 lead.
That's a perfect example. 66 miles an hour to whiff Bo Hart.
You know, you get an early 2-0 lead, and you know this guy, he wants the ball, and these are the type of games that he wants to pitch in. And I mean, he takes a whole lot off that breaking ball right there, and that's, you know, that's him. He's going to be able to throw his fastball in the mid-90s, mix in that breaking ball and change up, and he wants the ball.
Great command of that fastball. 95 miles an hour, very rarely in the middle of the zone. See Osmus most of the time. I mean, he can close his eyes. He's going to hit the target with that fastball. And the difference on that curveball, as far as Oswalt's concerned, is what he does with his lower half. The problems with that groin have come because you can see he's not a big guy. He's a maximum effort type guy when he throws the fastball. He just eliminates that lower half on his breaking ball, creating that deception in the speed.
Just 6 feet, 175 pounds. That's more like Pedro Martinez than Roger Clemens.
I think that's a good comparison, too.
Yeah, I do, too. I love the phrase maximum effort guy. because getting into coaching, you start to, that's a phrase you hear an awful lot. And when you watch Oswalt throw, that's what it looks like. You can see why maybe he's had some groin problems.
Fouled away by Palmeiro. On deck, Albert Pujols.
Probably a big part of the reason Palmeiro's in the lineup tonight for Tony La Russa, because he always gives you everything that he has. A maximum effort guy, never gives away an at bat, and here he goes there, fouling off a difficult pitch. Try to get the pitch count up with Oswalt and get rid of him.
Bases empty, 1 out, just getting started here. Bagwell with a 2-run shot for the Astros. Brad Ausmus has caught every single inning that Oswalt has pitched this year, and almost exclusively has caught him throughout his career. Line drive off the pitcher's glove. Is there a play for Blum? He throws off balance and not in time. Oswalt had a shot at it on the line drive back up the middle, but all it caught was a piece of the leather, and so Palmeiro is on with 1 away. Now defensively for the Houston Astros, Lance Bergman's in left. Biggio, of course, learning a new position yet again in center field. Richard Hidalgo in right field. How has it gone, Rick Sutcliffe, for Biggio as far as moving from behind the plate early, then to second base? He was a Gold Glover in those spots, and then out to center field.
He said the biggest difference is there's a lot more running. Tony, you would know. He said he runs about 2 miles a night, just getting to his position back and forth.
Yeah, you know, he's been a remarkable player. Started out as a catcher, was a great catcher.
Hot shot, diving play by Everett from his knee, throws to second, 1 on to first. How about that double play? Everett started it with a brilliant diving stab to steal a hit in the hole, and from a knee he gunned to strike to Kent, and then on to Bagwell. This one of the most spectacular double plays you're going to see this year. Matt Morris back at it and delivering to Richard Hidalgo as we get the second inning underway, moments after a brilliant double play was turned by the Astros on the infield. 6-4-3. This Houston team has come firing out of the gate tonight. They look awfully hungry to offset the Cubs win in the first game of a doubleheader earlier tonight as they beat the Pirates 10-9. So Chicago is just a half game behind Houston. Line drive foul, and looking back at that double play, Everett laying out in the hole.
Well, they talk about him making all the plays and then some. This is and then some right here. He takes a hit away from Pujols. He gets it to Kent, and Kent basically played a first baseman, just making sure of one. Then he turned and finished the throw.
Swinging a high, deep drive into left by Hidalgo. This one carrying on out of here. It's gone. Another home run for the Houston Astros off Matt Morris. They've hit 2 already in the first 2 innings, and the Astros jump to a 3-0 lead. And Hidalgo continues a punishing pace here in September. He hit 3 home runs on Tuesday in Denver, and he's at it again.
I don't think there's any question. Houston's trying to make a statement. They're jumping right out of their shoes. Fastball inside, Hidalgo short stroke, takes his hands to the inside. 3 runs on the board. We've seen 2 home runs, a great defensive play. They're jumping right out of the gate, showing people that they're trying to win it.
And they're sending a message to the Cubs right now saying, you guys can come back and win all you want. We've still got the lead. We're going to try to hold on to it.
Here's Ausmus now, 229 hitter with 4 home runs. And this is the way it's been going in September for Tony La Russa. A lot of looks on his face just like that. Line shot, base hit up the middle, and they're jumping on Morris. 2 homers, add a single. He's also hit a batter. So he's off to a rocky start, and Duncan is already concerned.
Well, and they're also concerned about the lack of the strike zone from home plate umpire Bill Hahn. That's what Tony La Russa and some of the guys from the dugout have been yelling about. Morris thought the first pitch of the inning was a strike. He kind of shrugged it off and laughed about it. Well, it's no laughing matter now because Hidalgo eventually in that at bat went deep.
Here's Adam Everett hitting .251 with 8 home runs. He just started that tremendous double play. Well, you know what? In Morris's last start Saturday in Houston, it was a 2-0 loss for St. Louis. Catcher Mike Matheny and Dave Duncan, the pitching coach, were both ejected for arguing with home plate umpire Jerry Crawford. The runner goes, swung on, laced toward right. That's going to drop down fair. Perez giving chase, it gets by him up against the fence. Ausmus will be waved in. He runs very well. So does Everett. He's into third sliding. 4-0 Houston.
When they traded Carl Everett to the Boston Red Sox, for the last 2 years, everybody said, what were they thinking? Everett was a terrific player, an all-star. Who is Adam Everett? Well, you're starting to find out. The kid's hitting right around 250 on the year. He's getting close to 50 RBIs. And Tony, like with every player, you look for him to stay strong. The last month of the year, he's hitting over 320.
Yeah, and that right there, I think, was a hit and run. And so he's trying to hit behind the runner, and he carves a ball into the right field corner. Bounces around down there, and the Astros put another run on the board and lead 4-0 with the 5th run standing 90 feet away.
Well, Everett and Ausmus have certainly been the defensive backbone of this club. They combined for a run here. Morris has already surrendered 4 hits, 4 earned runs on 28 pitches.
Well, the veteran guys telling me before tonight's game that they think Jimmy Williams, their manager, has done a terrific job protecting the young guys. He's talking about Adam Everett, where you can play Vizcaíno from time to time against a guy that's going to give you trouble. And you say, well, why not play him against Morris? Well, you had to figure this to be a pitcher's duel. He wanted his best defense out there. He got that and a little offense to go along with it.
Oswalt, pretty fair hitter, 194, no homers, infield in for St. Louis. The Cardinals knew coming in, regardless of what the Cubs were doing, you still had the Astros in first place. That's the team they're really trying to chase. They knew coming in they had to sweep this series, or it was going to be over. Nobody in the history of the game has come back from a 5-game deficit with 8 games left and won a division. So La Russa knew exactly what he was up against tonight with his big horse on the hill, Matt Morris. He thought he might have a great pitcher's duel at least to fall back on. It's not turning out that way. They're in a 4-0 hole. Popped up center field, very shallow. Here comes Drew coming on. Out goes Hart. He makes a brilliant play. Bo Hart holding that runner, Adam Everett, at third base with an over-the-shoulder catch. And he was the only one who was going to make that play.
Yeah. And he went a long way for that ball, too. And I'm really kind of surprised Everett didn't tag at third on this ball. Because second baseman running out with his back towards home plate is going to be a tough play for him, even if he, even though it's not that deep. But Everett came halfway down the line, and Hart made the play, and he had to go back to third.
One down, infield stays in. Here's Biggio. Line drive caught by Roland, and right into a double play. With the runner stranded way off third, thinking it was by him, Roland made a great snag, but it's still 4-0 Houston in the middle of the second. Well, Cardinal fans, young and old, a little bit rattled here. Some are having more fun than others. Certainly Matt Morris is not. Now, throughout his career, he's had a tendency to get behind early in games, not pitch well in the first and second inning, and then mow down the opponent after that. But he's down 4-0 with Roy Oswalt on the mound for Houston. That's not a good sign.
Well, this is an opportunity for his teammates to pick him up. He's carried the load. I mean, his last start, he pitched great, 7 innings, only gave up 2 runs, got no offensive support. This is an opportunity for his teammates to pick him up, put some runs on the board.
Drew, a .288 hitter with 14 home runs, still having trouble getting into the lineup on a regular basis. We were mentioning that Matt Morris had trouble, his teammates more trouble than he in his last start with the home plate umpire Jerry Crawford. As the pitching coach and the catcher were tossed out of that game, Morris was not. That is ball 4 to J.D. Drew, so he's on to begin the second inning. Let's go to the studio for an update. Rob Dibble and John Butchergrass. John?
The hunt for October focuses in on the NL wild card. We begin in Philly. Mike Lieberthal in the house. Mike Lieberthal out of the house.
They better pound the Reds pitching staff. A team that gives up over 5 runs a game. They have to pound the Reds and then move on to the next opponent.
Philly's a half game behind the Marlins, who are in Atlanta, and Russ Ortiz, the pitcher. Base hit to left, RBI. 1-0 lead for Atlanta.
Russ Ortiz saying just the other day that he didn't care about 20 wins is what he's trying for. He just wants to win the baseball game and win his start. Fouled away by Roland. Scott Roland at .288, 28 homers. He's driven in 101 runs. Leadoff man is on here in J.D. Drew in the second inning.
Ortiz also knows that there are bigger fish to fry, because he thought he was on the winning team in the World Series last year. Left the ball game in game 6 with that big lead. Jeff Kent thought the same thing.
Roland strikes out. Second K for Oswalt. 1 away in the second inning. As we check out the National League Central Division standings, this is up to the minute because the Cubs have won game 1 of a doubleheader against the Pirates 10-9. So the Astro lead is down to half a game. St. Louis, for all intents and purposes, they must sweep this series, this 3-game series, or it's lights out for them.
Dave, it might be a half game, but the way the Astros look at it, Tony, I know you know well, it's still a full game.
Yeah.
Because that column over there underneath the word loss, that's the only one that matters.
Yeah. And they control their own fate. As long as you have the lead and you keep winning, you're not going to lose any ground.
It's going to be difficult for them to keep winning.
I agree. I really think it is too. But you know, as long as they have the lead, you know, you realize you got to play with confidence. And they've jumped out tonight and put 4 runs on the board against really one of the better pitchers in the National League tonight.
Here's what is left for Jimmy Williams Ball Club. Now the Astros are home for the last 7 after this series against the Giants in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 of those are against the Giants.
Fly to right by Renteria. That'll be hauled in by Hidalgo for out number 2.
The Giants are going to take a couple of days off as far as the lineup's concerned. They did some celebrating. They'll give some guys some time to rest. But that last week, Felipe Alou is going to get those boys ready to go again. And the Astros expect to face Jason Schmidt probably on Wednesday, getting ready to start game 1 of the division series.
St. Louis Cardinals will finish up with the Arizona Diamondbacks, but if it continues the way this one's going tonight, that's not going to make any difference for the Cardinals. They're going to be long out of the race come the final weekend.
Cubs in Pittsburgh for 3, then they're at Cincinnati for 3, and then at home for Pittsburgh for 3. That, I don't know who set that schedule up, but it looks like he was a Cub fan.
Yeah, well, you know, the other subtle number is the Astros have 7 home games left. After this series against the Cardinals, they'll be home for the rest of the season.
And that's actually good news for Houston because they're such a good home team. They're 44-29 at Minute Maid Park. They're just 38-40 on the road. So the schedule, although the tougher games are certainly Houston's and not the Cubs, at least the Astros get them at home.
Yep. And
they're 18-13 against the remaining teams on their schedule.
Tony, you and I were talking before the game. Houston 10-5 on the year against the Cardinals.
Yep.
Well, there's your 5-game lead.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Eduardo Perez takes one up and in. He's recovered from that rather rude meeting with the right field fence, batting for the first time tonight and hitting .280.
Might not be the best division. It's probably the worst division overall in the National League, but it's been the most exciting. And if the Astros and the Cubs were to tie, it's going to come down to that coin toss. The Cubs won that coin toss, so that game would be played at Wrigley on Monday.
2 down, a runner at first, and J.D. Drew, and that zips across the inside corner. Now, should the Cardinals fail to win the Central, they're going to look upon that 5-game series at Wrigley Field at the beginning of September as their undoing. They went into that series leading the division by 1 game. Then they lost 4 out of 5 to the Cubs in Chicago. That was a raucous series filled with rain delays. It was a 15-inning game. It was a doubleheader. They left the Windy City 1 game back, and Rick, I don't think they ever recovered from that.
Well, they haven't been able to recover all year long from 1-run losses. 12-24 on the year in close ball games like that. That tells me 2 things. 1, they're not getting the clutch hits, which you would expect from this lineup. 2, they have had problems from the very beginning with their bullpen. When you start the season and you go 60 games without your closer, you're just asking for trouble.
Yep.
That's where they lost the National League Central.
The 3-2, Drew on the move, hammered deep to left field. This one has a chance to get out. Berkman back, turning around, off the wall. That's going to bring in J.D. Drew. Eduardo Perez, he rumbles into second base with a run-scoring double. I say he has bounced back very well from that collision with the fence, and he almost muscled one out. That one just below the yellow line in left field, but it's 4-1.
Yeah, when he hit this ball, I think he thought he got it. And Lance Berkman kind of ran around this ball because he knew he couldn't make the play, so he was trying to play the carom to hopefully keep that runner at third base.
What a guy to have on your ball club. Another guy that's versatile. He can pinch hit. Yesterday, Eduardo Perez was 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs in a home run.
A double and an RBI here. The inning's still going for Mike Matheny, the catcher, at 248, 7 homers. He's driven in 44 runs.
You know, this Cardinal team has battled all year long. We talked about, you know, injuries in the bullpen, injuries with their everyday guys. These guys have battled all year long.
Line shot, and Bagwell can't make the play. Here comes Perez into third. They're going to wave him in. Hidalgo throwing home. The tag. He got it. Ausmus got him on the back. And another assist for Hidalgo, number 22 on the year. He made a tremendous throw, but the crowd thought that Perez was in there on the slide. That's out number 3. Hidalgo with a sweep.
ESPN's Major League Baseball, brought to you by Comfort Inn by Choice Hotels. Enjoy free local calls at Comfort Inn by Choice Hotels.
Top half of the third inning here in St. Louis, and Matt Morris, a very quick worker. It's hammered into the ground by Blum, but into the outfield grass. It's Hart to make the play, the stop, and the throw for out number 1. Moments ago, Hidalgo with a throw to home plate. Ausmus there with a sweep tag. And erased Eduardo Perez very close.
I mean, Bagwell slowed this ball down, and that's Hidalgo making the throw with one step. And right there, I'm just not sure, but Perez reaction there, he didn't say a word, so he must have got him.
Yeah, he never argued. Tony La Russa certainly never came out, and as big a play as that is in a game like this, you think he would.
And the fact that he didn't say a word meant to me that the umpire got.
He had to feel something on the back of his shoulder, maybe just the tip of the glove. But Ausmus turned right to the home plate umpire, and you know, like we were talking between the break, these umpires seem to fall in love with Ausmus about the 4th or 5th inning.
No, you know, he's a bright, good-looking guy, Dartmouth educated, very well spoken, very popular guy, very likable fella. But he's also a tremendous defensive catcher.
Absolutely.
He's hysterical.
And he is hysterical.
He will rip anybody.
Son, have you been on the business end of one of those rips?
Many times.
I think we all have.
You know who was not, though, is Diane Sawyer. She fell head over heels in love with Brad Ausmus when she came out one day to throw out the ceremonial first pitch, and he was the catcher. And she took one look at him, and it was like she was looking at Clark Gable.
She's wasting her time, man. He's a happily married man.
But you know, Brad, he'll throw that. He used to say it all the time. I got to throw my Ivy League education on him. And I know he's back there talking to the umpire, and he's really just one of the best defensive catchers in the National League.
By the way, Diane Sawyer is also very happily married, so we don't want to start anything here. Topper on the infield. Renteria gloves it. And plenty of time to get Bagwell, who's already belted a 2-run homer tonight. 2 down.
They were arguing before the game. Ausmus broke the National League record for grounding into a double play last year. He did it 30 times. Bagwell has grounded into 25 this year. And Ausmus was betting him before the game that he said, "You're going to break the record. There's no doubt. It's going to be yours."
Oh, there's real love down there, huh? Longtime teammates. It's been a very tight clubhouse. Jeff Kent 0 for 1. He's been caught looking.
That might have been why Bagwell was going to the opposite field in that first inning. Man, on first, you don't want to roll over on that like he did in that last at bat.
And that's the other thing. It shows that clubhouse is pretty loose too. That you know, even though they came into the day 1 game out, they're still loosey-goosey and playing their style of baseball.
Ausmus, by the way, has only grounded into 7 double plays this year. So Bagwell's got him by a ton here in 2003. Kent at 301, 22 homers. His number is a little bit down. For him, it's been kind of a so-so season for the former Giant, though he has hit in 10 consecutive games. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
He brings that .390 batting average in the month of September into this ball game. He brings a .349 batting average with runners in scoring position.
And as you can see, hot in September to close things out. He lifts a fly to right. And sail foul.
Tony, what is it with this guy? I mean, most of the players in the Astros clubhouse don't get along with him. He can play.
He can play the game. You know, I mean, I don't know.
Is this Ty Cobb? What is this here?
All I know is he's out there every day. You look at his numbers, they're kind of down for him. 23 homers, 88 RBIs, but you know, he plays the game hard.
Their announcers don't like him.
He gets the big hit. And it just goes to show you don't have to like everybody.
Even Diane Sawyer's on the fence about Jeff Kent.
As long as you're doing your job.
He does that.
And he is a run producer. That one yanked foul by Kent. Lance Berkman up next.
He has also been given a lot of credit. Bagwell saying how much he has helped their young shortstop. Adam Everett developing on the spot. They turned terrific double plays. I don't know how they could have turned one any better than the one we saw tonight. That's
no kidding. And I'll tell you another aspect of Jeff Kent's game that's going to help this Astro team out is that if they do get to the postseason. You know, this is a guy with postseason experience, and he might be that one extra bat that the Astros have needed to get them past this first round.
Yeah, to get him around that Atlanta Braves buzzsaw they keep running into. That's in there for strike 3. So far tonight, Morris has tied him up, catching him looking twice, although Kent begs to differ with Bill Hahn. The Astros lead it by 3 in the third. Bottom third as Morris lashes a foul out of play. It'll be Matt Morris, Bo Hart, and then Orlando Palmeiro here in the third inning. 4-1 Houston. Rick Sutcliffe, Tony Gwynn, Dave O'Brien with you from Busch Stadium in St. Louis on a beautiful Friday night as Morris cuts right through it. 0-2. The humidity is gone here in St. Louis. The humidity of August and July and June. I think it's humid here in February.
It's fall.
It certainly is.
Those leaves are going to start to turn.
I know both of you guys love coming to this city during baseball season. You've been here many years. Son, of course, player here, and it's a great place for an athlete.
I don't think there's a better sports town.
I don't either.
I agree.
They love their football team, their hockey team. They got a great college basketball team.
Yeah, they love the home team, but they also show a lot of respect for the visiting team too. And you always loved coming here to play.
Breaking ball misses the onside corner. I can remember being here years ago and walking from a nearby hotel across the street to Busch Stadium, which is right downtown, with a September call-up. A kid who had been playing Double-A all year, and Cardinal fans were asking him for autographs. They knew his name.
Yep.
They knew his minor league numbers. They knew his background. They're the most educated baseball fans in America.
Well, still happens.
They've had some good teachers, you know, with Hall of Famer Jack Buck, and Harry Carey was here, and Mike Shannon's here now.
Fouled away back to the net. That's right. America's guest, Mike Shannon. Who is one of the voices of the St. Louis Cardinals and one of the staples of coming to this town during baseball season.
Another great Cardinal player.
Yeah.
Part of some of their world championships. Had it cut short because of a life-threatening illness that he was able to overcome, but never play again.
3-2 on Morris, so Oswalt is on the verge of walking the pitcher to begin the third inning, and Roy Oswalt has a 4-1 lead.
These two pitchers helped themselves with the bat in their hand. They tried to put it in play. You saw Oswalt tried to drive in a run back in his at bat in the top of the second. Morris, one of the league leaders in sacrifice bunts, which is always important for a pitcher.
This is the 9th pitch of this at bat coming up. And there's going to be at least one more here to count 3-2.
And this is a great at bat for Morris because Oswalt, who Rick described early in the game as a guy that puts a lot of effort into every pitch. As he fouls off another one. Now that sooner or later is going to take its toll.
It's going to get the crowd back into it too, and this can be a huge 10th man on the field when they get going.
This is the 12th pitch of the at bat. Hit stiff into right. Hidalgo will track it down, but a great cut on it by Morris. And a terrific at bat. Let's go to the studio. Dibbs and John, guys.
The hunt for October takes us to Philly. He's part Luzinski, part Schmidt, part Croc. This is all the great Phillies rolled into one. Jim Thome.
Cincinnati Reds, worst fielding team in the major leagues. 134 errors. Jim Thome taking all advantage of it. Friel drops it, gets right by him for a triple.
Phillies half game back of the Marlins, who are losing.
Bunted by Bo Hart, trying to bunt his way on, but the scoop made by Blum and a fine play to get him in first base. 2 down. Bo Hart, who just yesterday was named the Cardinals Rookie of the Year by the St. Louis baseball writers, got a beautiful watch presented to him by a jewelry store here in St. Louis. He was agog about the watch. So it was one of the most beautiful things he'd seen. He's 0 for 2 tonight, although they won't take the watch away for that. He's had an excellent rookie season.
Yes.
I don't know about that there, Tony. You just saw Morris up there battling. I don't know about giving away an at-bat on that first pitch there. That was a little surprising.
That's the inexperience of a Bo Hart. You know, your pitcher goes up there and has a great at-bat, fouls off pitches. You know, you want, and as the leadoff hitter, you want him to work, and you want him to come out and have to throw strikes.
Orlando Palmeiro puts it in play, but softly, and Kent gets it over there to first base, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Roy Oswalt. So that's all the Cardinals. We have finished up 3 here in St. Louis. Matt Morris got roughed up in the first 2 innings. He's allowed a pair of home runs, one to Bagwell, one to Hidalgo. And now the leadoff man here in the 4th inning is Lance Berkman for Houston. The Astros out in front 4-1. Rick Sutcliffe, Rookie of the Year and Cy Young Award winner, along with multiple batting champ Tony Gwynn, who did not win the Rookie of the Year. Steve Sachs won it. So that was something that Tony didn't take home for hardware.
I couldn't figure that out until Tony explained it. When did you get called up?
I got called up in July that year.
So thus the reason you were not a rookie or
I wasn't that good
next season.
Early on. You know, we were talking about Bo Hart the last inning bunting that on the first pitch. You learn in this game, and the longer you play, the more things you learn. And to me, that's when guys really start to get better. I mean, Pujols, who we've talked about a lot already, is kind of the exception. He kind of came into this game knowing a whole lot, and he played like it, you know. And so
ball 4, and Berkman is on after he had struck out in the first inning.
Let's go back and explain why Jeff Kent was complaining about the called 3rd strike. Watch what Mike Matheny does. Check out the catcher. Watch his head. That's a big man, 6'4" tall. But look at how he lowers his head, and you can see the view was not obstructed by the home plate umpire. You didn't see the glove turn over and him pull it up. He just held it right there in hopes of getting the call. 2 of the best catchers anywhere out there tonight, Tony.
Yep.
Tapper to Renteria to the hole. A high throw. Hart came down on the base, but will not have 2. Just the 1 out at second. So a fielder's choice 6-4. Hidalgo is now the runner at first base. Now bring up Brad Ausmus, the other half of that outstanding catcher core going tonight. Ausmus with a single and a run scored. And the technique of the catcher and what he can do to help out an umpire and help out his own pitcher in the process. That came into play a little bit more with the umpire and the catcher in Morris's last start, because Jerry Crawford was umpiring home plate. And Rick, as you know very well, and Tony, you as well, he has a tendency, veteran umpire, of putting a hand into the back of the catcher, kind of leaning into him throughout the course of a baseball game. And while Matheny didn't like that very much, in fact, because on one play, a big curveball by Morris, Crawford kind of leaned into him too hard. Matheny had to lurch to haul in that curveball, and then Mike turned around and said something to Jerry Crawford. It's Bill Hahn umpiring tonight, and Crawford didn't like it very much.
Well, if you watch Matheny too, he will move late, particularly with a veteran team like Houston. If he were to set up on the inside part of the plate right now, somebody in that bench or maybe somebody in the on-deck circle, all they got to do is whistle.
Yep.
I mean, that's been going on for years and years. If you're going to give away location, you don't have to have a man on base to pass that on to the hitter. So that's what Matheny was complaining about. He says, I've got to move late because of my, to help my pitcher out.
A pitch out there, nothing going on.
And the other thing, he's a big guy. I mean, he's a big man behind the plate. And as a hitter, if you're standing there and you're hearing him shuffling back there, if you're moving late, you don't really know which way he's going.
He's a man in that clubhouse, too.
I bet he is.
There's a lot of guys capable of leading, but most of them go to him.
Runner goes. It's hammered to right field. Backing up Perez. Still backing up. On the track, he reaches up and makes the play. Hidalgo will retreat to first. 2 down. Tonight inside Busch Stadium, St. Louis, Missouri. Delighted you're with us on this Friday night. Rick Sutcliffe, Tony Gwynn, Dave O'Brien with you. The Houston Astros came into the ball game with a 1-game lead in the Central Division over the Cubs, but then the Cubs won game 1 of a doubleheader just a few minutes into this game, and so at the moment it's just a half-game lead. As for the Cardinals, they are 5 games off the pace, and they have to sweep this series, a 3-game set with Houston, to have any chance at all. They have just 8 games left on their schedule.
It's been a total collapse for Tony La Russa's team here in the month of September. They started the month in first place. They were 8 games over 500. Last September, when they went on to win the National League Central, they went 21-6 in the final month of the regular season. Didn't happen this year.
Adam Everett with a triple his first time up. Tony La Russa trying to will his team into the playoffs, but he has not been happy at times since the early part of the month with his team's effort.
Well, you just look at the talent on the field. Look at the talent on the bench with Edmonds and Tino Martinez, Fernando Vina. How could this team, if they lose tonight, be only 3 games over 500?
Yeah. And the question I would ask is, why aren't those guys on the field tonight? Your team, you have to win all 3 games in this series. Now, they've had injury problems all year long.
Edmonds has a sore shoulder that's been troubling him all year. He's only hitting 197 in the second half. Everett takes ball 4. That puts runners at first and second. Time for an update with John and Dibbs. Guys,
the hunt for October takes us to Pittsburgh. Cubs won game 1. They're a half game behind the Astros as we speak, Rob.
Sammy Ofer in the first game of the doubleheader, but they won. He'll take that win every time. Getting an RBI in the second game.
1-1 in the second. Cubs batting.
Well, the Cubs battling, and the Cardinals and the Cubs have battled, and at times rather violently, throughout the summer and into the fall.
That's just what you want to do the end of September, play a doubleheader.
Oh, yeah. No kidding.
Well, you find out during this last month of the season who's mentally stronger than the next guy.
And I know it's cliche, but you find out who wants it worse, who wants it the most.
There's so much talent, and the talent with these two teams is so equal. This comes down to that mental time of the year where you just want it more than the other guy. And the first name that comes to mind to me is Derek Jeter. They were struggling. Boston's going to catch him, and what does he do? They want him to be cautious. You've got the rib thing. We can't take a chance. He goes, no, we're going to take a chance. I'm playing. And they start winning again.
And that weekend he had the rib cage injury. They told us flat out he's not going to play. Joe Torre said he will not play.
They lose Friday. They lose Saturday. He played Sunday.
Jeter talked himself and talked them into letting him play. Fouled away off to the right by Oswald. He's 0 for 1 tonight. A couple of men on base here for Houston. The Astros getting to Matt Morris quickly. A 2-run homer, just 3 batters into the game by Bagwell, his 37th. And then leading off the second inning, Richard Hidalgo blasted one out of here, his 28th. Big breaking ball hits the inside corner, and Oswald has been struck out. Morris gets it. And coming up, we'll take a look at the MVP race in the National League. Barry Bonds has 43 home runs, but Albert Pujols is the top hitter, and Sheffield has been incredible.
Said that since he came into the league, but I don't think there's a more dominant guy in the game today than Barry Bonds. And one last thing I'd like to add to that, there's another face I think that should have been on that on the pictures with Bonds and Sheffield and Pujols, and that's Jim Thome.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, given what he's doing now.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Cardinals were talking about all of the big home runs Thome hit off of them this year.
Jim Thome with 43 going into play tonight, tied with Bonds for the league lead. Also in the top 4 in runs batted in. That's in there for a strike on Pujols. He's 0 for 1, having hit into a double play.
Tony, I totally agree with you. And when you stop and think, first of all, the Cardinals more than likely aren't going to make the playoffs. Barry Bonds is 4 home runs away from Willie Mays.
Yep.
I mean, he hits 4 more. It might be unanimous again.
You know what? And he has, when the year started this year, I personally did not think the Giants were going to be the same team. I didn't think they would be as good as they were last year.
Socked into right. Hidalgo playing very deep anyway. It sinks in for a base hit.
Well, let me tell you, this guy right here, Albert Pujols, one day will get his chance, I think, to be an MVP. But for a young guy of 23 years old, 3 years in the big leagues, to have accomplished what he's accomplished, 366, 42 homers, 200 hits, leading the league in runs scored.
Where's that sophomore slump at?
Yeah, where? And he's done this all along. I mean, from his very first day in the big leagues till today. I mean, he's been.
Oh, let's go back to high school where I saw him play in Kansas
City. Oh, is that right? You did. Huh?
And then he played at a junior college and put up numbers just like that.
Well, the thing that surprised me about him is how come he was drafted so late. I mean, you know, people talked about him having the same ability in high school and junior college, but, you know, 14th round.
No position.
Okay. Yeah.
That was all we ever heard back then.
I heard the same thing. So.
Where's he going to play? Yeah. You know? Well, where's he going to play? Where do you want him to play? He can play anywhere you want. The problem is going to be this year, for the first time, he's arbitration eligible, which means that $900,000 he makes this year, he's going to pay that in taxes next year.
Yeah, and Walt Jocketty's going to have to write that check, and many more to come. Yeah. Although I think gladly, given the production he's getting out of Pujols.
Oh, absolutely.
On another planet.
There's going to be some changes here, though.
Little topper by Drew, softly, even with third. That's a fair ball, and there will be no play. Blum decided it was not going to go foul. He gobbled it up right along the line. And Drew is on with a base hit. Pujols to second.
He's in there tonight mainly because of his defense. We've seen him make some nice plays, but this is the play he shouldn't have made. You don't need to charge this ball. Stay behind the bag and see what happens. You can see the spin. You can see it headed in the direction of the bag. But if you stay behind it, you never know what might have happened. If you come get it, you know, first of all, if the ball's fair, you know it's J.D. Drew running down the line.
Yeah. Anybody else running down the line, he might have had a chance to field it and throw him out.
So an infield hit for Drew, and here's Scott Rowland fouling it away. 0 for 1 tonight. He struck out in the second inning. He's driven in 101 runs and has 2 men on the bases here with nobody out. Remember, the Cardinals have already had a runner cut down at home plate by Richard Hidalgo and a sweeping tag by Ausmus as they try and fight their way back into this one in the 4th.
He has driven in 101 runs. It's the 4th time he's driven in over 100 runs, but he really struggled when they needed him most this month against the Astros in that series, and also in the series against the Cubs in Chicago. Here's another spot where they need him.
0-2 and the fastball's inside, and to be fair, so did Albert Pujols. He did not have a standout series in either one of those key series. So we talk a lot about Cardinal pitching and the hole that sometimes it has dug the Cardinals despite this excellent lineup. But on a couple of occasions, their heavyweight bats have not come through. 1-2 pitch, line in the middle, scooped up by Kent, feeds Everett one on the first double play. Pujols advancing to third, but with 2 down. Time for a studio update. Dibbs and John.
Dave, let's take a break from all the playoff pressure for some fun. Randy Johnson, 0 career home runs. Number 1, Dibbs.
Number 1, and his teammate Kurt Schilling, the worst, 761 at bats, no home runs.
Edgar Renteria to bat with the runner at third and 2 down, and once again Scott Rowland has trouble delivering in the clutch here. He just hit into a 4-6-3 double play with 2 on and nobody out. So the Cardinals, I mean, you can feel it here in St. Louis, despite all the great enthusiasm for this baseball franchise and the fact that they are mathematically still involved in a playoff chase. It is starting to slip right through their fingers.
They've had some opportunities early. The runner getting thrown out at the plate. You know, Rowland just hitting into a double play. You know, they've had some opportunities, and you're only going to get a few off Oswalt. So now you're looking for a 2-out hit right here to get this second run home.
This is a pretty good guy to have up there to get it.
Oswalt been able to throw that breaking ball right there for a strike, and he's taken a lot off, and he's been able to work the outside part of the plate. We saw Pujols early this inning just go ahead and go that way with it, and that's what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to stay back and try to hit this ball the other way.
Renteria with 96 RBIs takes outside
and only 13 home runs. He said he's going to revolutionize the shortstop position. He's going to drive in 100. He said, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to prove you don't have to have power to produce. It's a good point.
In this lineup, yes, it is a good point.
Of course, Albert Pujols has driven in 123 runs. Rowland over 100. And if he reaches 100, Renteria, it'll be the first time in Cardinal history they'll have 3 men do it in the same season.
Tony, he's hitting .324 with runners in scoring position. Scott Rowland, who we just saw in that same situation, .276. What do you have to change?
I think the biggest thing is just being patient. You know, when guys are in scoring position, the natural tendency is to be aggressive early in the count, and really should be the other way. Pitchers know guys are in scoring position. They're going to try to get you to hit their pitch. And so you have to learn to be patient, to work the count, to get the pitch that you're looking for so that you can be productive in those situations. And so, you know, a guy like Pujols, a guy like Renteria, they're not afraid to stand there, take the ball to right field, take what they're giving them. I think the kind of success that they've had this year, being able to drive into runs, I think that's a direct result.
Renteria is so good at going to right field, and he chops that one to the right side. Knocked down by Kent. Now the throw. Got him at first base, and that costs a run. Renteria out. He thought he was safe. He got right in the face of Eric Cooper. Another run denied for St. Louis. Top five here in St. Louis. Top of the order for the Astros, who lead 4-1 over the Cardinals. And what is, for all intents and purposes, a do-or-die game, a do-or-die series for St. Louis. And the Cardinals have missed a couple of scoring chances. The Astros haven't missed much tonight. Pounding away early against Matt Morris. They came up with 4 runs, a couple of homers in the first 2 innings. Biggio part of that. He was hit by a pitch to start the game. He hit into a double play, lined out to Rowland in the second inning. Scott Rowland making a tremendous lunging catch of a liner along third. So he scored his 1,500th career run in that first inning. In play, diving stab, Pujols up and throwing in time as Morris beat a path to first base for out number 1. Well, the hunt for October continues on ESPN2 at 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. That's right, Sunday, Boston at Cleveland. The Red Sox 2.5 games up in the wild card race, and at 4 o'clock Eastern it'll be Seattle at Oakland. The A's leading the West by 5 games. The Mariners looking at that wild card themselves. They're 2.5 back in the American League wild card race. Pujols can't reach it, and Hart can't get to it. So Blum is on with a base hit. He's 1 for 3. A 1-out single here in the 5th will bring up Jeff Bagwell.
I know it starts with the Yankees in the American League, but the team that would scare me the most right now are the Boston Red Sox.
I agree. I totally agree.
Pedro Martinez is healthy. He's hungry. He stepped it up the other day. He may not lose the rest of the year.
And offensively, they've got plenty of weapons. You know, 1 through 9 in that lineup. Those guys, they can swing the bats. They can beat you with some speed. They can beat you with power.
And it might be the most together Red Sox unit that we have seen in years and years.
And we've done a couple of their games this year, Dave. The guy that did it, Kevin Millar, excuse me.
Yep.
How about that, huh? I mean, you hear him, Nomar and Manny and Bill Miller leading the league.
Millar and Ortiz, David Ortiz, are the 2 guys who've helped form that unit in Boston and make that the most lovey-dovey Red Sox team that may has ever taken place there at Fenway Park in Boston. And this is a former Red Sox himself, Jeff Bagwell, former Boston Red Sox farmhand.
Oops.
Yeah. And look what's happened since. Look at me now, says Bagwell. In his 13th season, over 400 homers, headed to the Hall of Fame.
No first baseman even close in RBIs over the last 9 years.
Shot down the right field line, but it slices past that foul pole and out of play. Now, that home run he hit in the first inning gave him 20 since the All-Star break. That's as many as Tomey has hit.
He's kind of carried the load. He's gotten the big hits for this Astro team coming down the stretch.
What would those power numbers be like for him if he wouldn't have played all those years in the Astrodome?
That one hit down the left field line into the corner. It's going to take a big bounce and head for the fence up against the wall. Here comes Blum rounding third. They're going to send him in. Renteria's throw home is cut off, and now Bagwell is cutting a run down. There's no one at second base, though. It's a foot race. Rowland lunges, and he's safe. Bagwell outrunning Rowland to get into second. He got back. The run in to make it 5-1 Houston.
See, this is one of the things I love about Bagwell. Not only is he a great hitter, Not only is he a really good defensive player, but he's one of the best base runners in baseball. He came around second base, recognized that there was nobody there, and this is a play that we work on in spring training. Here's the relay throw. Palmeiro to Renteria. Now, if he doesn't cut this ball off, you keep on going. And the fact that he cut it off, look, there's nobody there, and still has enough speed to get back into second base.
Why wasn't somebody there? Where was J.D. Drew at?
Or Mr. Eduardo Perez.
Little floater down in the left center field. That'll drop for a base hit. Bagwell is being waved in. He's going to score standing up.
There you are, Tony, talking about his base running. He's not the fastest, but even after all that activity, one pitch later, he gets a good read on the ball. There are other people that might not have scored on that. They weren't sure that it was going to drop. Bagwell somehow knew.
Absolutely, and that's what good base runners do. He's probably paying the price for it. He's taking a little bit longer time getting back to the dugout. But good base running on the ball that he hit. Good base running. Jeff Kent drops a little blooper in the left center field, and he reads it, recognizes it's going to fall, and scores.
Oh, and nobody appreciates this mound visit by Duncan to Morris any more than Bagwell. It'll give him a couple extra minutes to catch his breath, but the 13-year veteran able to score for the second time tonight.
You know, he's telling them all right now, forget the high fives, I'll catch you next inning. Yeah. Leave me alone, I need some air. Look at the effort on the part of Rowland.
Just missed the back of his foot.
He can see him over his corner.
Yeah, he knows he's gaining on him.
That's like that old tag game we used to play, you know, where something would be base. I'm on base.
Yeah.
You touch me all you want, don't matter.
Lance Berkman now with a runner at first base. 2 runs in for Houston. The Astros on top 6-1. No throw by Matheny. Activity in the bullpen now for the Cardinals.
Somebody find Osmus.
Yep.
He's getting ready to say something to him. Where's Brad at?
I think he's going to give his buddy some space there to get some oxygen. That dips a little low on Berkman.
I knew he'd be saying something.
Well, he might let him slide during the game, but he's at some point he's going to hear about it.
In there for a called strike on Berkman. He has struck out and walked. It's Jeff Facero, the left-hander, starting to get ready in the pen for Tony La Russa.
Well, this is quite a performance by the Houston Astros offense tonight.
That one under the glove of Pujols. It got under the leather. And now Kent rumbles up to second base. A single for Berkman, and the hits keep on coming. That's 8 of them now against Morris.
Matt Morris is one of the better pitchers in the National League right now, and when he's healthy, he's as good as it gets anywhere. He has been healthy the last 5 or 6 starts. This ball probably could have been caught by Pujols. It was hit hard. He didn't look like he got a real good read on it. Kent knew that if he caught it, he was going to be doubled up. But not only have they scored 6 runs tonight, the Cardinals have not made an error, and they've had several opportunities, Tony, to score more runs.
Yep. Right.
Well,
Pujols was fooled on that last line drive. They had a little top spin on it.
Well, yeah, he was, and as Sut pointed out, that's a double play, and the inning is over if he makes it. But now Hidalgo, the batter, a fly to right, and Perez underneath it to make the catch. Jeff Kent will advance into third base, so they're on the corners with 2 down. Hidalgo flying away, and that'll bring up Osmus now.
The last 5 games that these 2 teams have played against each other, the Cardinals have been outscored 31-9.
So it's been the teams inside the division that have befuddled La Russa. Jimmy Williams' Astros taking it to the Cardinals, and so did the Cubs of Dusty Baker, particularly in winning 4 out of 5 in that early September series at Wrigley Field.
That's just unbelievable to me. This team won the National League Central by 13 games last year. They won 97 ball games. They're all back. I know they were without Isringhausen earlier. They've been without Matt Morris for 6 starts, but Woody Williams has stepped up. Vigna's back now. Tomko's won 13 games. I thought they were the best team in baseball last year. If Scott Rowland hadn't gotten hurt in the postseason, I thought they would have cruised past the Giants and they would have had World Series rings on.
Well, a loss here tonight, and they're going to be 6 games out, and their season will effectively be over. You know, Matt Morris, he kind of caused a bit of a stir last Sunday when he said if St. Louis doesn't win the Central, he wants Houston to win it. Took a bit of a shot at the Cubs by saying when it's over, it's a lot easier to tip your cap to the Houston Astros than it is to the Cubs. Of course, they've had an overheated series with Chicago. But he pointed out the professionalism of the Astros is a lot easier to take. Renteria, the underhand toss to Hart.
Matt Morris isn't going to like any team that's got Kenny Lofton on it.
Yeah,
they got a problem.
They got a history going there. St. Louis might be. It looked like La Russa and J.D. Drew talking about a play at second that was never made. No one covered.
That's Tony La Russa chewing on J.D. Drew for not covering second base.
Cost him a run. Bagwell eventually scored.
Yep. He could chew on Eduardo Perez too, because somebody's got to be at second base on that play.
Here's Perez in the batter's box. He has doubled in a run tonight. The only run the Cardinals have, but he was also cut down on a play at home plate on a throw by Richard Hidalgo, the right fielder for the Astros, who's had a tremendous comeback here. Not only with the bat, but with his arm as well. He's tossed out 22 base runners. And at home plate, he got Perez on a sweeping tag by Ausmus.
Well, we come into tonight's game. The Cardinals are the best defense in the National League, but the Houston Astros have been better defensively tonight.
Swing and a miss by Perez, and he's out on strikes. One down here in the 5th inning. Matheny coming up next. Great to have you with us on a Friday night. Wish you were here in St. Louis. If this were 2 months ago, we wouldn't necessarily be saying that.
No.
It'd be 108 degrees in the booth. We'd be working on our second shirt.
No.
But it's beautiful here tonight. And the St. Louis Cardinals, Tony, you can feel it slipping away on them.
You can. They've had some opportunities early in this game to put runs on the board, to capitalize, you know, on the opportunities that they have, but they haven't been able to do it. Oswalt has made good pitches when he needed to. On the defensive end, we saw last inning, J.D. Drew didn't cover second base, and that allowed the 6th run to score for Houston. So,
well, the other major problem the Cardinals are facing tonight is called the Astros bullpen, which is one of the best in the game. Matheny 1 for 1 this evening. When they get to Lidge and Dotel and then Wagner, they essentially make it a 6-inning game, and it's lights out after that.
As good as Dotel and Wagner were last year, as we look into the Astros bullpen, they say they're even, not they, Ausmus, Bagwell say they've even been better this year.
I mean, Octavio Dotel has one of the most live arms you're going to see in baseball. He could be a lot of clubs' closers.
yeah.
I mean, you think of Smoltz and Gagne, when Trevor Hoffman is healthy, when Robbie Nen is healthy. But this guy could be in that class maybe after a couple of years of closing if given a chance. But they got Billy Wagner out there,
Yep.
who is as good as it gets. 2-2 pitch hammered, and a foul ball just off the line, but scalded by Matheny.
It's a luxury to have that many guys in your bullpen who can come in and throw strikes, get people out. And out of all the teams, when you look at the playoff scenarios, bullpen wise, I think this group is far ahead of everybody else.
Wagner with 43 saves, Dotel with over 30 holds.
In there for strike 3, and Matheny will take a seat. He barks a bit at Bill Hahn, the home plate umpire, but Oswalt is starting to take over this game. Saturday night, Brock Berlin looks to remain hot. Second-ranked Miami tries to remain perfect. They visit a place they traditionally struggle. Miami and Boston College on ESPN Saturday at 7:45. This game is also available on ESPN HD. College football Saturday on ESPN. Every game a must-win. Joe Girardi will pinch hit now for Matt Morris. And so the ace of the Cardinals staff these last several years is done for the night on a Friday when the Cardinals had to have a W.
And when the Astros needed some offense, who got it for them? Biggio scored the first run. Bagwell drove him in and homered in that first inning.
Bagwell with a 2-run shot. He's added an RBI double and scored twice. Biggio going over 1,500 runs. Those two names linked together in Astros history over these last 13, 14, 15 years.
Really amazing. I mean, and when it's all said and done, they're going to have played at least 16 years together on the same team. And Tony Gwynn, you can relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, these two have been great players for this organization.
A lot of sacrifices have to be made financially and what have you. Did the same thing.
Well, Biggio especially, I mean, he started out as a catcher, went to second base, was a Gold Glove second baseman. You know, they get Jeff Kent during the winter, volunteers to go play center field, made one error all year long. I mean, and then you look at what Bagwell's been able to accomplish offensively for over 400 home runs. Both great players.
Biggio and Bagwell are the Stockton and Malone of Major League Baseball. I mean, it's pretty clear that Bagwell is the mailman and Biggio is Stockton, although Stockton never had to change positions twice.
No.
I mean, he didn't go from point guard to power forward. What Biggio's done is really impressive. Down and in for ball 4, and so Girardi is on. A walk issued by Oswald. That means it's the top of the order in Bo Hart's. And Craig Biggio, you look at his career, and I think when all is said and done, he's going to be close to Hall of Fame caliber. Over 200 home runs, 400 stolen bases. He's approaching that. Rick, what do you think? I mean, obviously Bagwell's going to the Hall. He's going to be a first ballot guy. I don't think it's as obvious with Craig Biggio.
But he's going. Because when you look at the rest of the numbers, over the last decade, the last 10 years, he's played in over 1,300 games. That's over 130 a year. He's had over 6,000 plate appearances. That's over 600 a year. He scored over 1,000 runs. That averages out to be 100 a year. 200 homers, 200 stolen bases, both 20 a year. A 285 average, a 350 on-base percentage, and a slugging percentage over 400. Over the last 10 years, only 2 guys have done that. Kenny Lofton and Barry Bonds. Well, this guy, I think, by changing those positions, Tony, I actually think that's going to help him.
I do too.
When it comes time for the vote.
I mean, I don't have a vote or nothing. I just feel like the numbers, the things that he's been able to accomplish in this game. You know, as a player, you ask yourself a simple question: was he one of the dominant players in the game? The answer is yes.
Yep.
He was a leadoff hitter who could run, steal, swing the bat.
Hard with a bounty ball in the middle. Nice play by Everett. Boy, he's turned in a couple of dandies defensively tonight. The force play retires the side, and after 5, it is now 6-1 Houston.
Friction.
Well, it is certainly autumn in the Midwest, and that means meaningful games in St. Louis, but the Cardinals are down here by 5 as we go to the top of the 6th inning. And Tony La Russa dips into the bullpen and brings up the veteran Jeff Fassero on in relief of Matt Morris, who went 5 innings tonight, giving up 6 runs on 8 hits. They were expecting a lot more than that. This will be appearance number 60 for the left-hander Fassero.
It's been a disappointing year for Fassero. You can see the numbers. There's been some confusion as to whether he was going to be their left-handed setup guy. When Isringhausen got hurt, they threw him into the closer's role for a while. He's been in the starting rotation. Nothing really has worked out all year long for them. And I think that was the big difference this year. Not only having Isringhausen out early in the season, but with the exception of Woody Williams and Matt Morris, it really tapered off in that starting rotation. Tomko's gotten hot as of late, but everybody struggled the first 4 months of the season.
Morris, well, he scuffled tonight. He walked 2. All of those runs earned, 8 hits. They got him early. Bagwell with a 2-run homer. It started with Morris drilling Biggio. He hit him with a pitch. Renteria down for it gracefully, but a high throw and not in time. Everett is on with a base hit, his second tonight, to go with a second inning triple. Time for an update, and John Butchergrass and Rob Dibble coming your way.
Thank you, boys. The hunt for October takes us to Pittsburgh, and since the NHL season starting October 8th, a Canadian hitting a home run against the Cubs.
Well, the Cubs are going to have to do it themselves. Pittsburgh, Cincy, and then Pittsburgh again aren't just going to give them to them.
Obviously keeping an eye on everything that happens in the Central Division tonight and all across baseball. The Cubs already with a win today, but they're playing the second game of the doubleheader right now. And at the moment, they are trailing Houston by just half a game as we get ready for the final week of the baseball season. The Astros, including the rest of tonight, have 10 games left. St. Louis with just 8 left on their schedule. But the Astros also get their last 7 at home. Granted, 3 of them are against the Giants, and that's never any fun, but The Astros a very good home team at 44-29. Oswalt gets it down. Facero on to first base and into second. Everett with one away. We glance at the standings again. It's been a dogfight throughout the summer and now into the fall. The Astros with a half game left, and so you've already gone over the schedule that the Cubs have remaining. It's almost as if the schedule maker was wearing a Cubs cap in making out those final days on the schedule. 2003. It certainly tips in their favor.
It's so funny. I mean, it comes down to the smallest things making the biggest difference. Bagwell was talking about how they played the Giants Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday day. He said that's huge for us. It's got to be a getaway day for the Giants. But because of that, they don't think Barry Bonds will play. That means one of those 3 games he's going to miss. I mean, that's how. I mean, people have microscopes out now trying to figure this thing out, Tony.
Yeah, you're right. But the Giants already having clinched, playing for the home field advantage, I'm sure for them is going to be an important thing, and they want to do their share too in trying to stop Houston. But I will bet you on Wednesday, if Barry Bonds wants a day, he's going to get a day, and if Felipe feels like he needs one, he's going to get one whether he wants one or not.
Boy, just looking a little deeper in the numbers, the Giants coming into tonight 31 games over 500 at home. Only 4 games over 500 on the road. Yeah, you're right. They're going to want that.
A little bit outside for a ball on Biggio. Also factor in this. I mean, as well as Barry Bonds hits at Pac-Bell, and I don't have offhand his numbers inside Minute Maid Park in Houston, but it's a great hitters park, and that home run title is going to be on the line. The home run title might swing some voters as far as the MVP race, which is likely to come between Bonds and Pujols in the final days. But Tony, you believe that Barry Bonds is going to get a day, and it's going to be in Houston?
Usually, yeah. Yep. Usually, day game after a night game. Probably day off the next day. It's the chance to get 2 days off.
Sure, but he's going to be tempted. Ball 4 to Biggio. He reaches for the second time tonight.
Bonds is going to get those 4 home runs he needs too.
I think he is too. I really do. I really.
He doesn't want to sit out all winter needing one.
Exactly. You don't want to. You don't. When you have a milestone of that magnitude that close, you want to try to get it and get past it.
Well, this is why I think he just might play every one of the games in the series. You know what his career batting average is in Minute Maid Park?
No.
467. 30 games, I should say 12 games, 30 at bats, 5 home runs for Bonds. So I don't think Jeff Bagwell should count on that right now, that Bonds won't play in that final day game there in Houston.
Remember as a kid growing up where it was Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, and Willie Mays?
Yep.
Well, move over, Willie. Your godson's
I know. It's
about to get
You're right.
you.
It's how long have we heard those names?
Oh.
It seems like forever.
Oh.
Jeff Blum on the night, 1 for 3 with a 5th inning single. Runners at first and second and 1 down. Hammers that to roll, and he scoops it beautifully into second. That's 1 out on the first double play. Started by the 4-time Gold Glover Scott Rowland. Nothing doing here for the Astros, but they lead it by 5. Well, over the last 3 Septembers, there have been a lot of smiles here in the city of St. Louis. The Cardinals 57-20 this final month the last 3 years, but right now 7-11 September 2003. And any chance at winning a division title is falling away from Tony La Russa. And it might be on this Friday night here in his hometown. Popped up, and catch made by Blum. Orlando Palmeiro popping up. He's 1 for 3. Let's go to the studio for an update, guys.
The hunt for October takes us to the NL Wild Card race with Russ Ortiz pitching one of his best games of the year and beating the Marlins for Atlanta. The Phillies could be your wild card leader after tonight. Mike Lieberthal's second home.
Well, Mike Lieberthal, he's been playing well all year, helping him out.
Randy Wolf pitching for the Phils.
Phillies trying to take the lead in the wild card race tonight as Albert Pujols climbs in. He's hit into a double play and singled. Tony, you and I have done a couple of Marlin games recently, and we've seen the energy that team plays with and the outstanding pitching that they're getting. Popped up off the fists, but on a play by Pujols. Who do you like coming down the stretch between those two?
Oh, tough question. I liked Florida just because I thought their pitching was better set up. Their pitching, their starting pitching, their bullpen.
Sure.
Their ability to put runs on the board without having to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Urbina's made a big difference in their bullpen along with Braden Looper.
Yep.
Pretty good setup guy.
Yeah, it just seemed like they were in a better position to make a real run here, a real push towards the end. But that's a young team, not a lot of experience.
So what do you think? I mean, the last 3 that the Marlins play are against the New York Mets. We've been talking about schedule tonight. Maybe it comes down to that.
They talk about pitching, defense, and timely hitting, and you're definitely going to get all of that with the Marlins. The speed that they have at the top of the lineup, too, very impressive with Castilla and Juan Pierre. We'll talk about some defense.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a look at what has happened here tonight. In the very first inning, how did it end? Well, this is Pujols' double play. Looked like it was going to be a base hit. How did the second inning end? Tony, look at that. I mean, barehanded, one hop right on the money. That's how that inning ended. Here's a double play. You see Bagwell keeping the run from scoring. Now you got a man on third and 2 out. Renneria thought he beat it out, thought it was an RBI. Well, he thought wrong.
The Houston Astros defense tonight has been outstanding. And I can't tell you how difficult a play that was by Hidalgo on the run. One step and a throw, one hop throw right on the money.
Well, like you said, too, Bagwell knocked the ball down.
Yeah, Bagwell slowed the ball down going through. And he charged it, got rid of it, was accurate with his throw, saved a run.
And I was talking, Brad Osmus was saying that Hidalgo should win a Gold Glove. And he said, why isn't it like the infield where they give one to a left fielder, a center fielder, and a right fielder? Normally it's going to go to 3 center fielders, right? I mean, you know Andrew Jones is going to get one. That's a given.
Yep.
But there's not been a better right fielder than Hidalgo all year long.
Yeah, see, normally they would give it to a center fielder if there wasn't a right fielder they felt worthy, or a left fielder. But, you know, Larry Walker has won that thing many times in right field. And, you know, sometimes you have to have a year like he's having this year, throwing people out to kind of get the attention.
Broken bat on the infield, a one hopper to Everett. Dug out at first base by Bagwell. And the side is retired in 1-2-3 fashion. On to the 7th. Oswald in front. Top 7, Busch Stadium, St. Louis. Rick Sutcliffe, Tony Gwynn, Dave O'Brien, and the Astros out in front here 6-1. A must win for St. Louis. But frankly speaking, it was the Astros behind Bagwell's 2-run home in the first inning. They came out as if they could not afford to lose it. Houston jumping on starter Matt Morris. He was knocked off the hill after 5 innings. He gave up 8 hits and 6 earned runs.
And they came right out of the chute, putting pressure on the Cardinal defense. You know, the home run, good base running, clutch hitting.
Bagwell hammers another one to right field deep. Perez with room on this one, though, and he makes the catch. Jeff Bagwell 2 for 4, 3 RBIs tonight. And yet, despite all the great stuff he's done, along with Biggio, they keep going to the playoffs, but Sut, they don't win. In fact, look at those last 4 series. They've been blown out in those. And how about 80, 81, 86, some pretty good teams?
Well, 80, 81, and 86, those are world champs, right? And then you go to the Braves, you got Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavine. You go to the Padres in 98, you run into Kevin Brown. And then you go back to Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavine. Yeah, you're going to have problems. Jimmy Williams would just like to get there.
Jimmy Williams, who was on the field many of the times as the third base coach of the Atlanta Braves when they dusted off Houston. Got rid of them quickly. In the postseason, though, Bagwell's had his problems. A 174 average. You point out, look at all those strikeouts, too. Those jump out at you. You point out how good the pitching has been against him. But he has kind of a Barry Bonds monkey on his back, the one that Barry Bonds knocked off last August and September and October, and wound up having a great postseason run.
You know he'd like to get back there and take another shot at it.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of it.
Yeah, he's been a great player. And sooner or later, those guys are going to deliver in those situations. And Barry Bonds not only just threw it off, he body slammed it that much last year. And I think Biggio and Bagwell both would love an opportunity to do the same thing themselves this year.
Yeah, Biggio a 130 career average in postseason play. So the 2 brightest stars for the Astros all these years have been dimmed in the playoffs.
I think the biggest thing to me about Bagwell, we know about the MVP and the Rookie of the Year and the Gold Glove and all. I mean, does anybody get more respect from opposing teams than he does? I mean, there are people that are as respected. You were one of them. But I mean, people just he plays the game right.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's the best description.
Kent with a wave and a miss. He strikes out, and they're two-way. Facero gets him. Berkman up next.
Kent's kind of had a swing tonight to me, Tony, like a guy who has driven in over 100 runs the last 6 straight years. He's trying to do it for the 7th time. Because I mean, you just look at the swing. He's trying to pull that split finger. He knows what he's going to get from Facero, and with 89 RBIs now in the year, he's running out of time.
Yeah, he's going to have to get awfully hot here. Have a bunch of opportunities to get there this year. But you know, the thing we were talking about Houston in the postseason. I think he's a big reason why they can be successful. Because you have a guy like Jeff Kent who's had experience. You add a guy like Berkman to a lineup with a Biggio and a Bagwell and a Hidalgo. I mean, I think offensively this team this year has a chance to be very good, to have a very good chance of advancing in the postseason.
Well, Jeff Kent, World Series last year, 3 homers, 7 RBIs. We talked about Craig Biggio's problems in the playoffs. And of course, Kent, not only with San Francisco for 3 years, but also a season with the Cleveland Indians, appeared in the division series 4 times. So plenty of postseason experience there. Hammered into right center field by Berkman. That's going to sail over the head of J.D. Drew and bound up against the fence. Berkman has his 2nd hit tonight. A double, a single. He reaches with 2 down in the 7th.
Usually Berkman does a lot of his damage from the left side, but that's a ball up in the zone, and I mean, this ball gets out there quickly.
23 homers on the year. 21 of those, Tony, as you say, he hit from the left side.
So the Vince Gill lookalike is into second base. I'll bring up Richard Hidalgo. Now,
I heard that.
42 home runs a year ago for Berkman. 128 runs batted in. He's not going to come close to those numbers this year. If he goes on a great run here down the stretch, he has a chance to drive in 100. He has 89 right now, but he has had an off year by his standards. He looked like he was going to be 40 bombs and 120 RBIs every year.
Just got off to such a slow start. Like you said, Tony, he's not been productive from the right side of the plate. See the RBIs from last year this season, but you know what? He's still already scored 100 runs. He's hitting right at 300 with runners in scoring position. It's not like he's not going to get a raise next year.
It's not like that. You know, he's fallen off the face of the earth. His numbers aren't as good as the last couple of years, but he's still a solid player.
Big part of the reason he scored those 100 runs is the guy that just got intentionally passed, though. Comeback player of the year. Javi Lopez, as you mentioned earlier, Tony. Hidalgo. Javi didn't get shot, did he?
No, he didn't.
No, this guy took a gunshot wound and bounced back from that. Very scary incident, fouled away by Ausmus.
What does that do when they intentionally walk the guy in front of you? That was kind of a big swing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And, you know, Brad knows who's on deck, too. Is you got a young player on deck in Everett. And you know Facero wants to get it. He wants to get ahead in the count early. And Brad wanted to be aggressive and got a good pitch to hit. Just fouled it straight back.
Does it make you mad? I mean, I don't know that it ever happened. Maybe once early in your career, but I mean, does the hitter get mad when do they get offended when you put the guy in front of them on?
You know what? If you were a guy that hit in front of me, and they walk to get to me, I don't think it bothers you that first time. But if you're like Benito, batting behind Barry Bonds and having it happen all year long, yeah, I think you have a point to prove.
I remember my rookie year one time they motioned for Steve Carlton to intentionally walk Steve Yeager. Man on second and only 1 out. And Carlton looked in at Danny Ozark and he went no. And I'm kind of going, that's a compliment, man. He didn't want to. Well, he said later in the paper, he said, I knew I could strike both of them out.
You took it the right way, son. I mean,
well, you know,
that's the way to go with that. You had the right emotional reaction.
Steve Carlton, you're not going to win that one anyway.
Yeah, Roland gobbles it up and throws on to retire Ausmus. 2 men left. The Astros may have enough tonight. We'll see. It is 6-1 Houston in the middle of the 7th. Well, it's become jacket weather here in St. Louis. Usually that means the Cardinals are in contention for either the wild card or the division, but it's slipping away from them here tonight with a loss to the Houston Astros, and they trail 6-1 in the bottom of the 7th. St. Louis will be 6 games out, and they have 7 left. That's it. Scott Rowland trying to ignite something against Roy Oswalt. Rowland has struck out and hit into a double play. Came in a very hot hitter, a 4-game hit streak, and 9 hits and 15 at bats over that mini streak.
There's going to be some changes in this St. Louis Cardinal lineup before opening day next year. Fernando Vina with a $4.5 million option. They act like they're not going to pick that up.
Swinging a high pop up right around short. Everett there. 1 gone.
We've got J.D. Drew making $3.7 million this year. Are you going to bring him? You know he's going to get a raise. I mean, if you're still breathing, they give you more money. They basically brought back the same guys they had last year. They were content with that team, but sometimes with content comes a little bit of being complacent, and that fire has just not been there.
Renteria lifting a fly, routine play into right, and Hidalgo puts it away. 2 down. John Buccigross and Rob Dibble are standing by for an update. Lots of key games tonight, guys.
Yeah, with the Twins about to beat Detroit, the White Sox need a win here. It's 5-5 in the 7th. Maglio Ordonez.
Here's a guy who hadn't been talked about MVP a lot this year, has had a great year for the White Sox.
In St. Louis, 6-1 Houston. Minnesota Twins, though, everything seems to be breaking right for Minnesota. And Rick, we were talking about the Twins a few moments ago. Is Eduardo Perez? He's doubled and struck out tonight. He steps in.
That schedule falls right into their lap. They got Detroit now, and they finish with 4 games against Detroit. Tigers trying hard not to lose that 120 ball game. I think they're in trouble. They might catch a break, though. If Minnesota were to clinch with those 4 games to go, you might get a different lineup out there.
Yeah, for one night maybe, but
You're right.
it's
You're right.
if they were to increase their lead, they're gonna get their rotation set, and give guys a day off or so, and get ready for the postseason.
The Tigers heading down the stretch with a whimper. They have lost 6 in a row, 115 losses for them, should they lose another one. And they're in the process of doing exactly that. 5-0 Minnesota as the lead late. A little number off the end of the bat that spins foul off the stick of Eduardo Perez. And meanwhile, Roy Oswalt is pitching a whale of a game here. He's allowed just 1 run, 5 hits. He has not given up a base hit since the 4th inning.
It's one of those nights you could throw 15 innings if you had to. Probably hasn't lost a pound out there, getting ready to finish his 7th inning of work.
He doesn't have a whole lot to lose. He's only 175. But that fastball, that's humming in there at 95, 96.
Cardinal hitters have helped him a lot too, swinging at pitches early in the count, swinging at first pitches,
bunting first pitches.
But he's been in command.
He remains in command by striking out Perez. 1, 2, 3 they go for the 2nd straight inning. The Astros lead at 6-1 at the end of 7.
ESPN's Major League Baseball, brought to you by Long Lasting Energizer. Do you have the bunny inside?
Major League Baseball on the Friday night from St. Louis as the Astros are bearing down on what would be their 84th win of the season. They have a 6-1 advantage. Top of the 8th inning and a pitching change for Tony La Russa. He brings on Russ Springer to appear in his 16th game. And it would appear that Roy Oswalt's night is over as well. The Astros starter has been very tough to hit tonight due to bad second. But Vizcaíno will hit for him instead. So it's 8-9-1 against Springer. The right-hander's first offering is high ball 1.
Where has Russ Springer been? Shoulder surgery a year ago. Had some elbow problems earlier this year. Before that was always a power type setup right-handed reliever.
Misses low on Everett, who has tripled in a run, walked and singled. He's had a very good night with the glove too. He's had an excellent year at shortstop. He made a brilliant diving stab to begin a double play early in the game. That set the tone for the Astros the rest of the night with the glove.
You know, they knew they were set at first and second. We got MVPs over there at those positions. A lot of question marks at shortstop and third. Those question marks have turned into exclamation point. This kid can play shortstop, and the combination they've had with Ensberg and Blum that we've seen tonight, collectively they've been terrific.
Yeah, Ensberg and Blum together very quietly have driven in together 100 runs for this team.
And it's worked. I mean, you know, the platoon, whatever you want to call it, I mean, they've gotten the job done. And the fact that the Everett has progressed as the year has gone on, I think has been a big help.
2-2 pitch, swung on and missed for strike 3. Time for a studio update with John and Dibs. Guys.
The hunt for October takes us to Pittsburgh, and Sammy Sosa had his helmet broken by Solomon Torres earlier in the year.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Career homer 535. That's between Jimmy Fox and Mickey Mantle. Meanwhile, we have a new wild card leader in the NL. Phillies win. Braves beat the Marlins. Russ Ortiz win number 20 this year.
All right, so that refocuses that debate on who should be the National League Cy Young Award winner. 20 wins for Ortiz. He goes all the way to beat the Marlins. That's got to help his resume and his argument to win the Cy Young, because that's a very meaningful game for Florida. Knocks them out of first place. Vizcaino hitting .249 with 3 homers and 24 RBIs. So he bats for Roy Oswalt, who goes the first 7 innings tonight and is on his way to being 9-5. It looks like he is back from all the groin trouble, and 3 stays on the disabled list. Sutton, he was outstanding.
Well, that's the Roy Oswalt that we have known when he's been healthy. On the DL 3 times this year with that right groin problem. That's going to be a concern for them probably until the offseason, when he's going to have corrective surgery on that. But Tony, he's just outstanding. He's the whole combination, the ability and the focus.
Yeah, he was in total command tonight. Working ahead in the count, being able to throw that breaking ball over for a strike. Just 7 strong innings, exactly what the Astros needed.
And for St. Louis, just 1 ball out of the infield after Pujols' leadoff single in the 4th inning. That's all they managed off of the right-hander. Fouled away by Biggio, who's been hit by a pitch, which is no headline. He's also hit into a double play, grounded out, and walked tonight.
He's had a great night. He's just had a couple of hits taken away from him. Pujols with a diving stop, took a base hit away. Doubled down the line until Scott Rowland stretched those big arms out and ended up doubling up.
When you look at the Astros now, Biggio playing so well right now, Bagwell hot, 2 home runs tonight. Kent's been productive. Hidalgo is tearing the cover off the ball. They're getting good defense. They're getting starting pitching. They're getting a marvelous effort out of their bullpen they have all year long. Are we looking at the dark horse in the playoffs come October?
I know if I was going into the playoffs, this is the team I do not want to play. I'd rather face the Giants. I'd rather face the Braves. I mean, they've got a nice combination of things working in their favor. I wouldn't want to play them.
Fouled back by Biggio.
A lot like what Mike Scioscia said last year. Maybe we weren't the best team, but we were playing the best baseball at the time we needed to do that. This team's getting hot, and if they've got the lead after 6 innings, it's over.
Well, they're going to win 9 out of their last 10 if they grab a W here tonight. Lunging pop-up, shallow right, backing out Hart. He's there for the play. And a quiet frame here in the 8th inning for the Astros. They dip 1, 2, 3. Lidge is coming on as part of the great bullpen for Houston. We'll see him back in St. Louis for the bottom half of the 8th inning. We'll see if the Cardinals have anything left in the tank here. 6-1 Houston. That's Brad Lidge. He's appeared in a whopping 73 games. The strikeouts jump out at you a little bit. 92 Ks in 80 2/3.
Always had a lot of potential, but there's been a bizarre series of injuries throughout his career. He's been healthy all year, and Tony, he's going to remind you of Octavio Dotel with that fastball slider.
Gary Robinson is going to pinch hit for Matheny here in the home half of the 8th inning, and he takes a strike at the inside corner. 95 miles an hour out of the right-hander from Sacramento, California. He is 26 years old, and he's really come into his own this season. Look at that weak swing by Robinson.
Sorry about it.
That's a bit too tough to pinch hit. Get a 95-mile-per-hour fastball on your knuckles, and then
you about hit yourself in the nose with your bat.
Good idea to back out of the way of that one at 96.
But look at the location on it. This is Dotel without the deception. You know, Dotel kind of slings it, and he's out in that 3/4 arm angle. Hey, this guy's. Whoop.
You saw that coming, didn't you? Strike 3 on Robinson. Let's go to the studio. John and Dibbs.
Hunt for October takes us to Pittsburgh. Earlier this year, it was Paul Wilson pitching to Craig Wilson, who brought home Jack Wilson. Not quite that this year, but still, it's good news for Astro fans, because here come the Pirates, and there goes Matt Stairs, actually. And it's now 4-3 Pirates, bottom of the 5th. Good news.
There it is, giving the Cubs early win tonight in game 1 of the doubleheader. So Houston with a half-game lead on Chicago. And the Cardinals at the moment 5 out. They could be 6 out and done, really, by the end of this evening.
You know, Lloyd McClendon has to be proud of that Pittsburgh Pirate team. They basically gave away Ramirez and Kenny Lofton to the Cubs. Giles went to the Padres. A lot of young guys involved in that deal. And that team's still playing hard.
So this is the time of year where that's all you have left is your pride to step out there and show people that you can play this game. And that first game, the Pirates gave the Cubs all they wanted, lost 10-9, and now they're going to make them work again. And that's what you're supposed to do.
You talk about covering the spectrum here. Tony La Russa getting in Kerry Robinson, who wears the number 0, and now So Taguchi, who wears the number 99. Both pinch hitters.
You got to ask for that number.
It's always available. It's a good one to ask for. Fouled away by Taguchi. Bo Hart up next.
It's pretty good at bat.
He took a wild swing on the first pitch, but he's standing in there and trying to battle.
Taguchi hit his first career major league home run on Friday at Houston, a 2-run shot in the 7th inning. 3 out of 9 as a pinch hitter. Throws his bat at it. And the bat went flying out behind the mound on the infield grass.
Staying alive.
This is survival. And the strange thing, after you do that, you never want to walk out there to go get it. You know, somebody will run and get it for you. You know, you never know how a pitcher's going to react when you go out to try to get that bat. So he decided, hey, I'll wait for somebody to get it for me.
I know as a pitcher, I'm not going to go get it for you.
1-2 swung on and missed. He held on to that one. But Lidge has blown away the first 2 hitters in this inning. Well, Saturday, most of you will see top-ranked Oklahoma take on UCLA in the BCS Spotlight game presented by ADT. Regional action consists of number 5 Michigan at number 22 Oregon, or Colorado at Florida State ranked number 9. Saturday at 3:30 Eastern on ABC Sports. Check your local listings for the game in your area. Bo Hart in there. He's gone 0 for 3 tonight. Lidge is one tough hombre to get around on, isn't he?
Well, he's just nice and easy. 95.
How about the command? How about how he moved the slider around on that last at bat?
He's been able to put the ball exactly where Brad Osmus is asking for it.
97. Those are big numbers this time of year when you've already had 70 appearances. You're after the National League rookie record.
Line shot smoked into left field for a base hit. So Hart gets around on that one. That was the off-speed pitch.
That rookie relief record for appearances was established last year by Ricky Stone out of the Houston Astros bullpen. There's been a change in this team, Tony, since Larry Dierker stepped down and Jimmy Williams took over. There's a lot more appearances available for that bullpen.
Well, you know, Larry Dierker liked his starters to try to finish what they started.
He always did.
And because that's what he did. That's right. And Jimmy Williams has come in and isn't afraid to use his bullpen. That's what they're there for.
Little tapper on the infield softly. Kent in, up and over, and got him. Palmeiro retired. So after the base hit, no harm done. It remains the Astros 6, St. Louis 1 as we go to the 9th.
October takes us to the best record in the NL hunt. Both the Braves and Giants have 58 losses. Braves have 96 wins. Giants going for their 94th.
It's not going to be easy. The worst scoring team in the National League down.
Benito Santiago, RBI single.
Back here in St. Louis, the Astros have a 6-1 lead as we go to the 9th inning. And Cardinal fans faithful as ever. They teach them young here to hang in there, get yourself a baseball and relax. Pop foul by Jeff Blum. He is 1 for 4 tonight. A couple of changes here for the Cardinals. Chris Widger is the new catcher. He takes over for Matheny. And Jimmy Jurnell, who is a big-time prospect for this organization, he's just big, period. 6'4", 210. And an excellent season in relief in the minors and appearing in his 7th major league game.
Had been an excellent prospect as a starting pitcher until being converted this year. Number 4 round draft pick back in June of 1999. Immediately got to know about the career of Tommy John, which nowadays isn't a bad thing. I mean, they fix you and you come back better than ever, I guess.
Tommy John surgeries, bounced back from that. As everybody seems to, virtually everybody. I guess, though, that's a bit of a misnomer because we don't hear much about the guys who don't make it all the way back. The great stories like a John Smoltz, for example, we all hear about that. And many pitchers come back stronger. Kerry Wood's another example.
John Smoltz better come back strong.
Ooh.
Or those Atlanta Braves come back to the pack.
You ain't lying. All of a sudden, and that one's foul just off the line by Blum. Atlanta winning tonight behind Ortiz 1-0 as they beat the Marlins, but John Smoltz still not ready to go.
He was supposed to test it tonight, and to be honest with you, I was going to wait and call him tomorrow just to see. He's not going to know it. Sure, he's going to get the adrenaline going. It's going to feel good, but tomorrow will be when he really knows what's going on in that elbow.
Well, Smoltz has said that he can do everything except fire that fastball at 98 and the slider. Perez gets over into right center and makes the catch for out number 1. Well, this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without written consent. Major League Baseball is giving away World Series tickets for life and other great prizes. It's the ultimate World Series promotion presented by Radio Shack. Winning hologram numbers will be announced through games 1 through 4. The grand prize, World Series tickets for life, announced in Game 4 of the 2003 World Series.
That's what Derek Jeter had for a while.
No, yeah.
Yeah, World Series tickets
Him and
for
Joe
life.
Torre, they were living at the World Series.
Tony, what do you do here? You face a young kid you've never seen before.
I trust what I do. I don't really worry about what he's trying to do to me. I'm going to try to get up there and do the things that I need to do.
Recognize the pitch.
See it, recognize what it is and where it's going, get my body in position, take the swing.
What about the batting stance of Jeff Bagwell? Do you recommend this?
You know what? It's funny because when the year before he was the MVP, he asked me about that. And I said, you know what? If I were you, I'd find something that works for you. And the next year, 1994, he came back with this. And he was MVP.
Well, it keeps him from going forward.
Exactly. It kept him from going forward because before, that's what he used to do all the time was go forward.
Laced in a base hit into right. It's the 3rd hit of the game for Bagwell, along with a double and a home run tonight. We welcome our audience tuned in to Kansas City, Chicago. We are here tonight in St. Louis, where the Astros have a 6-1 lead over the fading Cardinals. 9th inning, 1 down. Rick Sutcliffe, Tony Gwynn, Dave O'Brien with you from Busch Stadium. Jeff Kent 1 for 4 with an RBI single. That came in the 5th inning when they got 2 runs. They also scored twice in the 1st and 2 in the 2nd. That was off of Matt Morris, and they knocked him off the hill after 5 innings. Meanwhile, Roy Oswalt, in an anticipated pitcher's duel, certainly got the better of St. Louis as he went 7 innings. And could be 9-5 at the end of the night. Little number back toward the mound. Jurnell throwing into second. Close play, but got him. Bagwell is retired on the force. And Kent becomes the runner at first base. So now they're 2 down.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the St. Louis Cardinals. There's nobody backing up second base on a play earlier that cost them a run with Bagwell. Now there's confusion out there at second. Who's covering here? Nobody knows. Look at that. I mean, the young kid doesn't know where to throw the ball. Renteria was nobody. It was almost like nobody wanted to be there.
And La Russa looks like he's fuming because Renteria is supposed to come across on that play, but he wasn't there. Hart luckily got back in a position to make the play.
So the Cardinals, on paper, the best defensive team in the National League, have not looked like it tonight, even though they've not been charged with an error.
It's been a tough night for the state of Missouri. That's a huge blow to the Kansas City Royals. The White Sox.
Berkman tonight 2 for 3 with a single and a double. He's hitting .284.
Now, offensively, it looks like the Astros are starting to get things going. Bagwell 3 hits in 2 straight games. Berkman's got a couple tonight.
Little tapper. That's going to be a foul ball.
You got me thinking now. I just kind of figured whoever won the Central, you know, all right, you're going to get to the playoffs. You're not going anywhere. But this
think about it.
I know. I'm just trying to figure out how to get through the lineup. And you got Berkman here. I can't get him out. Hidalgo's up next. Osmus has been on fire since the All-Star break. Adam Everett's doing everything. You got a healthy Wade Miller's unhittable right now. You got a healthy Oswalt. Unbelievable bullpen.
Inside for a ball on Berkman.
I think people just have the tendency to. It's like the Atlanta Braves. They've been to the playoffs, you know, and haven't gone to the World Series and won it but one time. So people kind of take it for granted somebody's going to knock them off. I think the same with this Houston team. You add Jeff Kent. You add a healthy Hidalgo. Their bullpen. You know, their starters, Oswalt, Miller has thrown the ball really well.
Oh, don't forget Robertson, the young left-hander who's won 15 games.
Exactly. So, and you're only going to use 3 of those guys. I mean, this could be a team that could cause some trouble.
They are a serious dark horse, and that's up and away for ball 4 on Berkman. So maybe they copy a page out of the Anaheim Angels book. Through most of the season, they were not the best team in their own division, let alone baseball. And yet come October, they were as hot as could be, playing their best ball and fundamentally sound. And you have to think that applies to Jimmy Williams' team as well. You get veterans who play the game the right way, up and down that lineup. They're going to be a very sticky team to deal with if they make the playoffs. 1 ball on Richard Hidalgo. He's homered tonight.
I just think you get to the postseason. You know, obviously pitching and defense are 2 important factors, but you know, as we found out last year, you got to swing the bats too. You got to put some runs on the board. And more times than not with Houston, that's been their problem. Offensively, they just haven't been able to generate enough for them to win a series. And you know, they're getting hot right at the right time.
Hidalgo takes one down low. He cracked a home run in the 2nd inning. Number 28. Hidalgo with a bounce back here. He's had an excellent September. 3 home runs the other night at Coors Field in Denver. Janelle to the plate, and that's up the middle for a base hit. That's going to bring in another run. The throw home will not be in time. Another run to make it 7-1. Boy, it is quiet at Busch Stadium in St. Louis for sure. Hidalgo picking up his 2nd RBI of the ball game.
Well, Hidalgo's been kind of quiet the last couple of years. But they say the ghost of the year 2000 is gone. 44 homers, 120 RBIs. He got a multi-year deal. They said he got a little comfortable, and then all of a sudden last year he got hurt. And then over the winter he gets shot. And you know, you never know what's going to wake a guy up, whether it was being complacent, not getting after it as he did in his big year, or what it is. But Tony, it's back.
Yeah. You know, and those are his offensive numbers. Defensively, he's thrown out 22 base runners. He's got a great arm. We saw that earlier tonight too.
And he's a lot lighter. He's lost weight. He's slimmed down. Osmus knocks that one into right field for a base hit. Into third base trying to score. Here comes another run as Berkman crosses home. Thrown to third is not in time. 8-1 Houston. Ausmus collects an RBI. Give him 45.
No such thing as too many. There is such thing as too few. When you don't have enough runs, you can never have too many. These RBIs are important right now. Stranger things have happened than teams coming back. The Cardinals in Chicago had a 6-run lead only to let it get away. This is a veteran club, like you mentioned in the open, Tony. They know what it's going to take.
The Astros have that eye of the tiger, though. They look hungry to win this division. They've shown it tonight. Here comes Tony La Russa. He's going to make a pitching change right here. 8-1 Houston here in the ninth, and we'll be back in just a moment. Here he brings on Jason Simon-Tachi. So Jimmy Journell could not get out of the inning. In fact, giving up a couple of runs, 3 hits and a walk. The numbers on Simon-Tachi wearing those high socks. Runners at first and third here. And 8 runs across for the Astros.
I'd like to have seen the kid have a chance to get out of that. He actually did get out of it when he got the ground ball double play hit by Jeff Kent, but they couldn't decide who was going to cover at second. Because of that, the inning continued, and we got to bring on another reliever.
Two down here, and the hunt for October continues on ESPN2 at 1 o'clock Eastern. It's the Boston Red Sox at Cleveland. The Red Sox 2.5 games up in the wild card race, and at 4 Eastern on ESPN2. We go out west, Seattle at Oakland. Oakland leading the West by 5. The Mariners 2.5 back. Really do or die for them in the American League wild card race. Adam Everett with a good night going. He has tripled, he's singled, he's also taken ball 4. 2 down, and that's shot out to Renteria. The force play ends the top of the ninth, but a couple more runs, and the Astros have an 8-1 lead over the fading St. Louis Cardinals as we go to the bottom of the ninth.
For October takes us to Oakland, and Seattle pretty much has to sweep, Rob, to have a chance. They're 5 back, but Durazo makes it 1-0 A's.
Yeah, well, Oakland, I think they're not worried about Seattle. I think they're trying to catch the Yankees for home field advantage. They're 2 games behind the Yankees in that category.
Meanwhile, the Cubs are a 1.5 back of the Phillies, who now lead the wild card in the NL, but they're losing to Pittsburgh 6-3 in the bottom of the 6th. Come back here, they get within a game of Philly in the wild card.
And right now in the National League Central, the Chicago Cubs a half game back of the Houston Astros. Obviously, that goes to a game when the Astros lock this one up, and that's what they're trying to do here in the bottom of the ninth. They head 8-1. And Billy Wagner hasn't worked in a while. That's the reason he gets an outing tonight. He hasn't pitched since the 14th of September, son.
Right when the Cardinal fans think it can't get any worse, it just did.
Billy the Kid blowing it in there around 100 miles an hour. He gets Pujols, Drew, and Rolen in this inning. Albert Pujols 1 for 3. He picked up the 206th hit of his season back in the 4th inning. Lines that one toward the alley. Biggio will make the catch. He looks pretty smooth out there. As the center fielder, he's made all the plays tonight.
He did. He got up to a great jump on that one.
The one thing we knew, he's an athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he is athletic. We saw that at second base. He learned the footwork there. You know, he's intelligent. He gets good jumps. You saw that as a second baseman. You just take that on out into the outfield. And like he said, Seth, the one thing, I know where to throw the ball. And you know, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
J.D. Drew tonight. Wound up going 1 for 2. Eli Marrero is going to hit for him. So getting his only at bat tonight if the Astros have their way. Houston got started early this evening. They got 2 in the very first inning thanks to Jeff Bagwell and his blast over the right field fence. 2-run shot. They got 2 more in the second inning, 2 more in the 5th, and a pair in the 9th. They have out-hit St. Louis 13-6.
They made it look easy. I mean, every opportunity the Astros had on the offensive end, they cashed it in. Cardinals had some early, couldn't cash them in.
How about this? Wagner, an ERA you can barely see since July 1. Biggio and Bagwell, I should say Hidalgo coming in, and Biggio makes the catch. And so they're 2 down. SportsCenter coming your way next with John Anderson and Scott Van Pelt. Among the stories they're talking about, the playoffs and role models. Chris Berman's 2-minute drill, and it's a big weekend in the SEC. It's coming up after our ball game here from Busch Stadium. Scott Rowland 0 for 3. Lashes this one to right. Hidalgo on the move. He puts it away, and that is the ball game. And that might be the season for the St. Louis Cardinals, because the Astros are a full game up in the Central, and St. Louis is now 6 games out. Oswalt with a terrific effort. Morris is 10-8 with the loss. And the Astros look like a very hungry team as we get into late September. Final score tonight: Houston 8, St. Louis 1. For Rick Sutcliffe, Tony Gwynn, and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Dave O'Brien. Coming up next, as mentioned, is SportsCenter. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com. From